Hello.
Welcome back.
And we're back. Hey, Danny.
Missed you 3 weeks.
3 weeks, gee whiz, felt like 3 years. Folks, if you've just joined us, this is Doing It Sober Live, back in action with myself, Chris Nell from South Africa, and with Daniela Park from America. 2 hemispheres of the world. How's that? But
Sounds pretty good to me. I was just listening to
Beyond
pump up
borders.
music. You know, like
Oh,
music
really?
that pumps you up, getting all excited for the show.
I play that on Saturday nights, just so by the by. In fact, if you listen to that stuff in your earphones, as we call on the business cans, you actually go like this. 3 hours.
I was just looking at our guests, Michael Molthan's YouTube, and he's got his own show, and he's such a personality, this guy. He's got a story, I'll tell you that.
I understand so.
Yeah.
I've been also keeping abreast of what he's doing. Look, the man doesn't hold his tongue for anybody and doesn't carry water for any man or woman. And that's more people that we need in this world, irregardless of opinion, irregardless of stance. You know what? We need all sorts of people to make the world go round. I almost said made the girl go round. The universe is telling me something. Cabin fever. In any event.
With you, working on a radio show.
Oh, yeah. I should have said this on the show last time, but I was still working in the TV business. I've now retired from the TV business, and I'm back doing what I like to do, spinning records and talking smack, which is part joy and part guerrilla warfare. I say part guerrilla warfare. Because it's a great joy not to wake up early in the morning, but then when you get home at 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, your eyes go squint like this. From all the thinking and the talking.
I bet.
But no, in all seriousness, I love it. I love it, really. I didn't realize how much I missed it. Danny, you and I spoke about this on a separate occasion. I think it was just before you went to South America. Is the premise of being present is not having any expectations. And when I returned specifically to radio, I thought, okay, let's give this a try. There was an absence of 2 years, but hey, let's give it a try. But the moment that I got behind the microphone again and I switched on that switch, something else took over, and it was then that I didn't realize then how much I missed it. So now that I have that opportunity, I don't want to abuse it, but a lot of things opened up my mind recently, and we'll get to that at a later stage because I don't want to sound premature. But yeah, that's what I've been predominantly doing, and I had to make an amendment to my character defects because I don't see it as a character defect anymore. Is I suffer from a very rare disease. It's not so common in everyone, but it's called an overactive jaw because I can't stop talking. So it makes me perfectly suited to radio.
We know, but that's okay. It's good. Now, you have to have a knowledge of music, obviously. I mean, if you're playing music that
yes, you can.
Genre, and you got to know your shit, right?
Absolutely. Look, there are 2 mainline genres of radio. There's obviously music radio, which has its subgenres, and then you have talk, which has its subgenres. Now, in any given subgenre, you have to have a general knowledge, period. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as you can just get on the microphone and just talk smack. You have to know, obviously, some substance or form. Keep abreast on current affairs, but the onus is up to me to what I want to say. Now, I should add this in for good measure as well, that there are certain topics to steer clear of, these last 2 years included. Agree? So what I try and do is I just talk about bread and butter topics regarding the area. And here is Mikey.
Oh, cool. There he is. All right. Mr. Michael, let's invite him up. Very exciting to see this guy. Did you invite him up, Chris?
No, he jumped on by himself. Let me quickly invite him.
I got it.
Oh.
All right, cool.
Okay. Great stuff.
Well, you got to give me
Hello,
some
Michael.
tips.
Am I doing this the right way?
You are doing this the right way. If you just turn on your camera, Squire.
You just need to click on the invite for the video in the left corner. You'll get an invite. Did you see that? Invite to video?
Let's see here.
Hi, Woody.
You'll see at the bottom left, Mike, there's a hamburger menu consisting of 2 straight lines. If you click on that,
okay,
you'll see there's an option that says invite to video. And by the way, Danny, that's not a joke. That's a real expression, a hamburger menu, because it looks like a hamburger. Well,
all right. So
I eat veggie burgers, so.
It says catch up. So what do I do?
Okay, get out of that.
Get out of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, it's Burger King. You can't have it. It's not Burger King. You can't have it your way, Chris. You get out of that, and then you go to the hamburger menu, whatever the hell that means. I've never heard that before. Okay.
Well, I'm having a problem. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry. We're laughing at Chris's dumbass.
Okay. Well, here we go. Let's see here. Broadcast the world. Show settings. Share with followers.
Okay, let me see. Okay, here we are. Let me see. I'm going to invite you to video. Did you get that?
And Mikey, are you still there, mate?
Okay, let's see. Invite to video.
That.
All right.
Hey,
there we go.
Shit, look at that. He's upside down. That's a first.
He's Spider-Man.
Okay, here we go. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. There we go.
Slowly but surely is the path to victory. Remember, it's the tortoise that beat the hare.
That's right. I think you just got to flip the iPad around.
We're just going to keep going. Huh. Well, we are going the wrong direction, aren't we?
No ways.
Can you flip the iPad the other way?
I'm flipping it every way. I'm going this way.
It reminds me of an Eddie Rabbit song. Every which way but loose. Yeah?
It sounds like, I mean, it looks like you're stuck, actually.
Well, here I am. Can you see me now?
Do you see me?
I'm sure you can see us, but all I can see is a man looking upside down, and it looks like he's got a good
Well, I'm right side up with you.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's continue on. Maybe his signal is giving a little bit of issues. So that's why he looks like an upside-down Spider-Man. So while that is underway, let me introduce our guest to our audiences, because they obviously had enough of my silly jokes. Life is predestined. How that plays out can be compared as to laying the foundation to a brick building. That should count for life's downs as equal to the ups. Maybe the universe is telling me something. From tempting fate, tapping at death's door, and even trying to pick up the pieces thereafter, we all need a guiding hand to aid from going upward from the bottom to perhaps reaching the breaches of the top. It takes resilience, trust, and faith, pillars of rock to lean on. Michael Molthan knows this tale all too well. Trauma, dependency on drugs, incarceration, the man saw it all. A chance encounter with an inmate, though, led to encountering the New Living Translation and giving his heart to Jesus. Michael had gotten free spiritually, and also an error in admin granted him an early release. This release made Michael realize he needed to provide others trapped to be freed. Perhaps with the help of Jesus, he can even help set you free. On Doing It Sober Live, we bring to you Michael Molthan. Make yourself be known, my good man.
Wow, that was awesome. So I'm assuming that my manager, Kim, wrote that and sent it to y'all, or if Chris, you wrote that. Just keep talking about me. I like that. That's what it's at. I was asked one time, what do they talk about in support group meetings? And it's real simple. We talk about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
That's what we do. Thank you so much. What an honor. And I hope you can see me well. So I'm honored to be here, and I'm in a hotel room right now. So I hope the Wi-Fi is okay. And I'm right up the street from you. Is it Danielle? I'm sorry. Danielle, I'm right up the
Daniela,
street from
where are
you.
you at?
I'm in Orlando.
Oh my goodness. So you're visiting. You don't live here.
I don't. I'm visiting here and doing some stuff, and then my son lives here, and coming to see him, and then heading back to Dallas this weekend. We're launching a couple of documentaries next week, so
Oh,
really
nice.
having a good time.
That's
Have you
exciting.
branched out to filmmaking, if you don't mind me asking, Mike?
I haven't. We're working on some stuff. I mean, I'm not an actor. I'm just a recovering drug addict alcoholic with a good story. And my biggest
Sure.
character defect growing up was this mouth, and now God's allowed it to be my greatest asset. So
Well, you and I
instead,
are akin in that space, my good man. We can't shut up.
yeah. So
True that.
I've been clean and sober since May 29, 2017. So just celebrated, 5 years, and it's truly been a miracle.
Fantastic.
It hasn't been easy, but I'm still clean and sober.
God love you for that, brother. Where did that all start? In summary.
Can we stop? I want to stop because I really want this to come out okay. And you are upside down on our end. I'm going to disconnect you, Michael, and I apologize. We're going to disconnect you and we're going to reconnect you to see if we can get you upright, because this will not come out right on the show and no one will watch it. We want you to be seen on the show. So
I'm right
let me
side up on my side, so I'm following you.
Okay, I'm going to try it one more time, and then we'll leave it as it is.
Third time's a charm.
And thank you for your patience, and I'm sorry for interrupting.
How's that?
You know what, folks? Let this be a life lesson to you that technology isn't always reliable as one thinks. That's why I call technology my new ex-wife.
I don't even see him now. Gosh darn it, what did I do? Why is this not working?
I can see the two of y'all, and it's perfect.
Let's keep it that way for the time being. So, as Daniela is carrying on, Mike, you were busy saying, roughly in summary, you had a very, very long, torrid love affair with alcohol and drugs. Tell us more or less some certain highlights of how you first had a dalliance with it and ultimately ending up in prison, leading up to your encounter with the Bible.
Well, whenever I speak, I always make it very, very clear that I drink alcohol and I did drugs for the effect. I can't be confused about that. I didn't drink alcohol, and that's recovery, is accepting that and recognizing it. I didn't drink alcohol and do drugs because I was dealt a bad deck, because I was sexually abused, physically abused, betrayed, abandoned. And this all happened. But that's why I drank, was because of the effect. And when I drank alcohol and I did drugs, I started to feel like everybody around me looked. And then at the end of my run, I was drinking alcohol and doing drugs to try to feel good about the bad decisions and the consequences that were happening to me, that I didn't know why I was doing what I was doing. And the most powerful thing and the most honest thing, and I share this with people who are trying to get in recovery, the most honest thing that we can tell ourselves is this, 3 simple words: I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing the things I'm doing. I don't know why I'm drinking. And that's the true honesty that I finally had to do after my 27th mugshot, in front of Judge Bennett, is I simply just gave up, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing. But, growing up, I lived in a very wealthy family, and behind closed doors, it was complete chaos. My grandfather sexually abused me. My parents were very physical with me. My dad was never around. He was a workaholic. And so I grew up in the country clubs, and I grew up in the men's locker room. And these men taught me how to live. They taught me how to drink. They taught me how to gamble, and then they taught me how to die. And so, these were the men in my life. And that's my passion today. Our crisis today is not alcohol and drugs. Our crisis today is the missing man. That's where it all boils down to, is it's time for men to take back the dinner table, and so as I was, growing and drinking alcohol and doing drugs and doing what we do, I was very successful. I thought successful as one of the most well-known high-end luxury home builders in the country. I was doing homes, starting at 5 million, going all the way up to 30 million, doing projects as far as, luxury penthouses in the Ritz-Carlton in Dallas, and, consulting with people across the country. And And I seemed to have it all going on, but there was a dark hole, in my spirit, because in 1992 in Orlando, Florida, I ended up getting a lady pregnant. And my son and daughter that I adopted, I abandoned them. I abandoned them when Brandon was, 2 years old, and I never turned back, and I left. And at the time, it's funny when people introduce me to speak, they say, this guy's Forrest Gump. The stories are true. Before I got into home building, I was a caddy on the pro golf tour, and what a perfect place for a drug addict, alcoholic, and a bookie to go. That's where I was at, caddying on the tour. And it was the week of Bay Hill, as you know, in Orlando. And that's when I met this lady. And I did her wrong. I really did. I did her wrong. And then, the use got up, and then, and I got remarried, and I was married for 14 years, and we had 2 beautiful boys, and I never wanted to be that dad ever again. And, in 2009, my wife had a massive brain hemorrhage. We were planning a funeral, and I was spiraling out of control, and all the dark demons started coming up, and I did not know how to deal with it. And I went on a tailspin. I literally gave my company to my brother, high 7-figure net worth. It doesn't matter. I had more money coming in than I had going out. So it was that right there is, my family was betraying me. My ex-in-laws were betraying me. I was being abandoned again, and I went to a very dark place. And, it all started from that guilt and shame of abandoning these kids.
I can relate.
So, yeah. And so 2011, I got, or 2010, I got my very first mugshot. I got pulled over, and I said, man, I'm never doing this again. I've become that guy I said I never was going to be. We always hear that, we hear people say they became homeless, and they became, divorced. They went to prison, they went to jail, they went to institutions, they went to asylums, they went to treatment. And I said, those guys were dealt a bad deck. I'll never be like that yet, and
Famous last words.
I became that guy. So when I got released after my first mugshot, I said I wasn't going to drink and do drugs again. I meant it. I don't know if y'all can relate. I really meant it. I meant it.
You did.
And once I got back to my place, I was in an apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment. I came from a 10,000 square foot house into a 1-bedroom apartment. I'm in there, and I'm going, you know what? I'm a little anxious. I've had a really rough 2 nights. I'm just going to knock the edge off. And I picked up a drink, and then I got drunk and high that night, I'm a social drinker, Chris, for about 8 minutes. You know what I mean? That's about it. You know what I mean? That's it.
Oh, yeah.
I've never taken
just one.
My entire
just
life.
One.
Yeah, our
one
favorite
times
number's 2.
10.
Right. So it spiraled out of control, and I started running, and I started, the lies were running out, and that's when I started drinking, even doing drugs even more, because I wanted to feel good about the bad decisions I was making. And all these decisions and all these bad decisions that I've learned through the 12-step recovery, I'm very protective of, the group that I'm a part of. So I don't wave that flag, but I'm in a 12-step recovery, group. And after working those steps, I started realizing the role that I played in this, and a lot of them are tough. I can understand the role I played. If I loaned someone $5, they didn't pay me back. That's easy. I loaned them the $5, right? So that resentment's resolved. But how do you come up, recover from a resentment that you have towards your grandfather who sexually, abused you? And I have an answer to that. What worked for me was the role I played in it was I chose not to forgive him. I chose not to forgive him. And, once I did that, I crossed over to the supernatural. That's where God really worked. That's where he really worked, is when we, crossed over to the supernatural and accept our role in the things that were done wrong to us. Right.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
That's where I ended up today. There's so much to talk about, but I don't want to talk as y'all show.
Sure.
I'm following you.
No. This is your platform, mate. But I do want to ask you something, because you touched on 2 things that I really, really, really am passionate about at the moment. I say passionate because it provides a conflict. I can't speak for a woman because I'm not one. But certainly in men, the concept of forgiveness. When we hear the concept of forgiveness, it means we let that person go for any transgression, inverted commas, but it also creates the sort of false ideal that you should love them for where they are. I spoke at a podcast appearance about a year or so ago where I said, you know what? You forgive them for you. Excuse me. You forgive them for yourself. But it doesn't mean that that person who transgressed you, and I'm using highfalutin words to savor the blow a bit, it doesn't give them permission to come back into your life, because I had a similar thing with my biological father from whom I'm estranged. Your thoughts on that?
It's perfect. I mean, Matthew 6, 14 and 15 in my own translation is that, that's when the Bible started working for me, is those two verses. If you forgive the ones who have sinned against you or hurt you, in Matthew 15, God says, I'm going to bless your name. I mean, that's what it boils down to. As an addict alcoholic, God's not going to bless me if I'm holding on to a resentment, because I'm an addict.
Oh, yeah.
If he'll bless me, I'm going to stuff the resentment down further, and I'm going to use up my blessings, and then the resentment's going to come up. And it can be very deep for someone who doesn't have a relationship with a higher power yet. Okay. Thank God for steps 1 and 2. But once we get that and the true forgiveness, and that's when I call crossing over to the supernatural. And that's where that's where God really gets to flex his muscle. I've always been like this, Chris, is how do I know I've forgiven? How do I know if it's worked? And the way that, what's worked for me is that I stopped planning revenge. I'm not laying in bed. I'm not laying in bed anymore, just masterminding the perfect movie where I win. I'm holding the Oscar. I got you, and to the point where, a girl that I had a resentment towards, I would fantasize about flying in on a private jet with a good looking girlfriend just to show it their face. And then it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm exhausted. You know what I mean? And they're sleeping just fine. But that's,
I can relate.
Yeah. So that's the mind. And so when we stop planning revenge against that person is where we get the freedom. We call it morbid reflection, and when that morbid reflection is removed from us, we sleep good. I sleep, right now, the last couple of months, I've been sleeping very good. I've recently gone through a difficult breakup in recovery, in February. And it has been hurtful and painful. Okay. But yet
it's never easy.
No, but yet I'm growing through it. I didn't drink or drug, but my character defects started to come back. You know what I mean? And that resentment started to come back. And here's what's really interesting about being in recovery and being a believer. Being a believer in God is that I believe in God so much. The pain was so bad because I knew what to do. I knew to turn it over to him. But since and God will let me play God until the pain gets bad enough and I hit my knees and turn to him and say, you can have it. I can't handle it.
I did exactly the same thing a couple of weeks ago, believe it or not. And to tell you the truth, I don't want that lease on my shoulder anymore. It's too exhausting. And
it's interesting what I learned from that, Chris, is that sitting back, being rocketed to the fourth dimension and being able to look at through a different perspective through God's eyes is that.
Then there's that.
Yeah. And then when we look at that, what I did is I was making this person my higher power. This person was becoming my drug of choice, and I had a hard time, being in sobriety. I mean, I just plowed through people. I didn't care. But I experienced codependency for the first time in my life because I didn't want anybody to leave me. Don't abandon me, and something I had to work through, and I'm working through.
Yeah. Well, you know what? From I can't see you, and Danny can't see you, but from the way that you're talking with such confidence, and that's that's indicative to me that you're on the right path to healing. Look, let's be very honest about this. Breakup, especially in recovery, is heart-wrenching in the fullest sense of the word. But you know what, Mike? If you disagree with me on this, you're more than welcome to disagree with me. I'm fallible like everyone else. But we need to go through these things. I call them growth spurts, and breakup is one of them. If you're open-minded enough and you do a little bit of an inventory and you weigh the pros and the cons, and eventually there will come a time after you've meditated, after you've prayed about it, that just one day the light will come on and you say, Lord, thank you for what I had to go through. It wasn't nice going through it. You know what? I'll be transparent. When my dad came back to get the rest of his stuff before he left to move to an opposite state, he and I got into a bout of fisticuffs. And with a narcissist, the moment that you show them any sort of defense, they will pussyfoot. And it's not a rude word. It's a means of saying, trying to get back in your life, to get into your good graces. But the moment that you give them your good graces, then the destructive pattern starts at a complete 360 again. And when he tried to do that for the umpteenth time, I just pulled out a weapon and I said, don't come near me. Don't come near me. Thank God I didn't pull the trigger, but I needed to do that to effectively move forward.
That's what I was thinking the whole time you guys were talking, the boundaries. That is healing. Yes.
And sometimes it has to go to the extreme.
There's the amends, there's the release, the surrender, but there's also after that the boundaries, and that's part of the healing, I think.
And
this is interesting, Chris. I think we're on. I think we're dealing with the same thing. So, there's a couple of things that I'd like to touch on, and that's
please do.
And let's touch about mental health. Because mental health, especially for men, is very hard to talk about.
I spoke about it on the radio today, believe it or not.
Okay. But, I'm trying to learn how to deliver this without hurting anyone. Okay. But I just recently got out of a I can't even say the word, a relationship with a narcissist. Okay. And it sounds like such a bad word, but the more that I have learned about it is that narcissists are attracted to empathetic people, right?
They are.
And it will literally, and it physically sucked me dry. I mean, it physically drove me into a psych ward. I mean, I literally, at the first of the year, I was in a psych ward because I'm very empathetic, very helping, and I became so confused on how this works. I mean, it was a very confusing situation. And as I processed, and when I went in there, I was also diagnosed. And I just met with my psychiatrist yesterday morning, who is awesome. He's been on my show, and we talked about it. He's so proud how far I've come, since February. And I had to really process this because I know what God's doing. He allowed it to happen so I could speak about it. I'm a lab rat. I really feel like I'm a lab rat, but so I'm able to speak about it. And I was telling him about it. And I said, it's really cool that I've accepted that I'm bipolar. I'd much rather have pancreatic cancer than being bipolar because it just sounds like I'm crazy. You know what I mean? And so he stopped me. No,
it's not a stigma.
Yeah, he stopped me. And he said, listen, I want you to do something else. Don't ever say I am bipolar. Say I have bipolar disorder. And when he told me that, man, that felt good.
I'll even give you another term that you can use because a good friend of mine is also bipolar type 1. You're bipolar opposite.
Like that. I like that. But,
it's yours. Take it.
Yeah, I will. I was just on a show in Dallas and with a therapist, and we had an incredible show talking about mental health and narcissism, and we delivered it very healthy. It was great because my platform is not about getting even or shooting slugs over the bow. I don't want to do that, but I want to learn from these things and provide solutions so I can get people's head nodding up and down, going, wow, I get it. And it's been a very growing year. Now, back to your original deal as far as these things, God allows detours to happen in our life. He allows these detours to happen so we can become stronger and closer to him. Okay. If I were to talk about it in recovery, if recovery was easy, especially early recovery, if it was easy, I'd be drunk and high right now. You know what I mean? I'd go,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna get drunk and high right now, and I'm gonna go clean off on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, but it's very painful because I have to get honest and I have to look at me, and that's
But that's how
hard to
you grow,
do.
don't you?
That's right. And so, but I've realized that when I'm connected to God and I'm spiritually fit, these detours in our life are bad moments. They're bad moments, right? They're not, they don't drag on for a month. When
Right.
they drag on for a month, it's usually based on my experience. I'm spiritually disconnected, or I'm a believer and I know what's happening, but I'm so angry I won't turn to God. I know He's there and I know what the solution is. I know what it is, but sometimes I just get comfortable being right there because I cannot put the sword down. And until I do that, man, He comes in and it's the same thing again. It's just that it's almost like reestablishing your sobriety day. The emotional
So
hangovers
true.
today are just painful.
And if you're not spiritually fit right at the moment that this happens, you're fucked. I mean, you really are.
Yeah,
You've got,
yeah.
It's like day one, mentally.
Well said.
I want to read you guys something quickly.
Okay.
Be proud of every scar that's on your heart. Each one holds a lifetime worth of lessons. How profound is that?
Very.
It's that's where we learn. That's where we learn is in the, I learned so much about myself in prison, and I learned by watching others. You know what I mean? I learned so much by serving others. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Very
What
much.
happened in prison? That's a very interesting story. How you had you weren't always a spiritual. You said you were.
No. I was agnostic. Okay. I believed in one God, and that was me. You know what I mean? That's who I believed in. And after my 27th mugshot, I knew I was going to be put away for a while. Judge Bennett, she was tired of being my professional photographer. She says, it's time to, you're gonna mind somebody, and you're gonna mind me. And I'll never forget this. I was sitting it was a two-man cell. I got put into an aggravated assault tank with murderers. You don't think God knew what He was doing? And I'm not that guy. I'm just drunk and dopehead. And
talk about being in the belly of a whale.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it was rock and roll, and I saw people get killed right in front of me. I saw suicide. I mean, everything that you can see, a trauma to the max. So yeah, I literally saw a guy get his head snapped like a dove right by me, and all this, and I was in there, and this old man comes into my cell, and his name's Ooh-wee. That's what they called him. They called me Rabbit because I couldn't sit still. I couldn't sit still. I didn't have drugs. I didn't have alcohol. It was in my head. I was worried about everybody out in Dallas talking about me. And I was just out there. And so I'm pacing around, and, Ooh-wee told me to come into, the cell that we were in. And he goes, "Hey, listen, Rabbit, they're going to chew you off the bone. They're going to chew you off the bone. You're making a lot of people nervous." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "You're out in that world. You have to get out of that world." And he was basically, the prison talk is doing hard time and easy time. And so I did not know what that meant. So Uwe asked me, it was all God. He says, "Hey, will you do me a favor? Will you read to me?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Will you read to me?" I go, "Read to you?" He goes, "Yeah, I can't read. I can't write." This guy was 75 years old, right? He's doing life. So I said, "All right." So this gangbanger gives me this book, and it happens to be the Living Recovery Bible. Now, this gangbanger, the people would get books off the book cart for one reason: to use them as pillows. You put them under your mat, you can prop up, and you can have a pillow. And so he let me use it. It was brand new. He owned it. And so I took it down, and I'm reading it to Uwe. Now, it's just black words on white paper. It's nothing, okay? But here's the cool thing. As I was reading it to him, he was just like, "Yeah, ooh, yeah, read that again." And the next thing I know, Chris and Danielle, 4 days go by. 4 days go by. And I realized I wasn't anxious. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't I wasn't worried about anything. And I'm like, wow, what's happening right now? And
Mm-hmm.
then on, I got arrested 5/29/17, and on 7/7/17, okay, I woke up in my bunk and I couldn't breathe. I literally could not breathe. And I thought I was having a heart attack. And I took this deep breath in and then I blew out. And I felt all this anger and rage and resentment, all this stuff coming out, just like the Green Mile, the flies coming out of my body. And I take this deep breath back in. It was just ice water. And I was full of love, you know? And so I just kept, I was reading and reading and writing letters to people, and this murder tank came together, and the guards were just going nuts. I wasn't preaching or anything like that. I was just simply reading to these people.
Wow.
And the reason why I felt free, I felt home, because for the first time in my life, I was serving others, expecting nothing in return. Nothing.
And it happened unconsciously.
Boom.
Yeah. And I was doing
1, 2,
easy
3.
time. Easy time is living in the now.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful lesson, but you have to experience it in order to understand it. And I say it to a lot of people who are, especially in early recovery, when they hear the benefits about recovery, finding a freedom that we've never known before, God is the director, He is the principal, we are His agents.
Right,
all of that freedoms sounds good on the ear, but then a lot of them ask, now how the hell do we get there? Excuse my French. But ultimately, again, I have to use the expression, just one fine day, the light comes on. Then it's more of a fact of, now I understand. So it has to be experienced, and you have to let the tale play out in chapters.
It's in order.
And
it's
in
basically
verses.
how it works. You just do it in order, and then it works.
And be patient.
Right.
And be patient. Look, everyone's recovery is going to play out eventually, but it happens in different chapters for everyone else. We're all different. I'm an extrovert. Daniela's an introvert. You, I'm assuming you're somewhere in the middle, ambivert and extrovert. So it plays out in various chapters, but as long as we keep on the journey, as you say, there are bumps in the road, just keep going. You know what?
Yeah.
I said this to someone from a career perspective who asked me about how to get into the business and so on and so forth. And the first thing I said to him is, fail joyously. And Danny, you remember when I had you on my radio show, I said the very same thing. Because you ultimately learn what doesn't work for you. Take the word fail, divide it into an acronym of 4. First, action in learning. So either you win or you learn. So you don't fail whatsoever. It's what we say to ourselves here. You alluded it to yourself. It starts here. And this is a fickle instrument. And when this instrument and this instrument collide, that's where calamity happens. Yes. But when they are enjoined, magic happens.
Right. That's exactly right. And, it's, I tell people, how do you get in the now? How do you get in the moment, in the present? And based on my experience and what's working for me is serving others. When I do these shows and I'm on these shows and I do interviews, I never think about the future. I never think about the past. It's the greatest feeling in the world because I'm right here, right now, speaking with y'all. You're helping me. I mean, you two are helping me because I get to share my experience to help others. That's my passion is to help others. And the way that I help others is that the times I do bump my head, the times that I'm in the ditch, to process it and learn from it and tell the story. Tell the story. The story never ends. The story keeps going. What it was like, that's a very small piece of my story. Okay. I drank, I did drugs, I fell down, I woke up, I said I was never going to do it again. I did it again. That's what it was like. All right. But what happened, I just shared with you, the spiritual awakening, serving others on October 13th, 2017, being miraculously released from prison, traveling over 300 miles by foot to turn myself in. And the judge pardoned me and said, go pay it forward. And that's what I'm doing. And
talk about go to any length. You were there.
Yeah, iHeartRadio found it, and all the local Dallas news picked it up, and it just took
Wow.
off. And Chris, I wasn't sitting in jail doing a business plan on starting a show. I was just hoping I could get a job at Home Depot. I didn't know what I was going to do, and so
Yeah.
I kept following my feet. And what's really cool is that with everything going on and all the way up to 2021 on January 3rd, 2021, I got a phone call. Excuse me, from this guy. It was on the other line, and it says, "I want you to know that I thought I would never call you. I hate you. And if there's any way I could change my last name, I would do it. But I need your help." And it was my son.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a son that I abandoned, and so that's why I'm in Orlando. We have become so close, and he hasn't had a drink or drug since the day that we met. His sobriety date is January 6th, 2021. And
Oh
guess
my
what I did?
God.
Guess what I did? I just showed up and I gave him a good listening to. And what's so cool is that he was watching the show. He was watching the show, and he
Oh
was
my God.
seeing his dad, his actions, and he could relate. He could
I
totally
was about
relate
to
to
say the same
everything.
thing.
And
You
so,
didn't just say you're sorry, you were showing him, without even you realizing it, you were
Yeah.
showing him that you were sorry.
That's God
yeah,
working in your life.
Oh,
and
that gives me
and
goosies.
that's all the result of everyone in recovery and everyone following, because I just listen. Everything that I'm talking about right now, I'm not. If I make it up, we're all going to prison, right? I'm sharing with y'all that I love listening to stories and how I can read and share it. You know what I mean? And just share these
Mm.
things, um, and it's working. It's working that when we reach out and we help others, and so now he's helping others, and so coming here and meeting with him and my daughter, and my ex-wife. I mean, heck, I'm hanging out at their house, and this lady, I did her wrong. She could sue me. I mean, she could sue me. I mean, she has the right to do everything. And when I had my mental breakdown in February, I'm all by myself. Okay. I don't know what I'm going to do. And the door knocks, and it's her, and she comes in and she puts her arm around me and she says, "I just want you to know we love you. Your family, you know, and out of all the people to be there to support me, it's them, you know, and it's just really cool. Only God could do that. Only
Yeah.
God,
Oh, yeah,
you know, and
absolutely.
so it's just a big part of my life. So that's why I'm here in Orlando, and I've got a book deal going. We've got I don't know if y'all have heard of I Am Second. Or I Am Second video is
I
dropping on.
have. I
So
watch them
they did a
religiously.
yeah, they did a film on me, and that's dropping on the 23rd of this month. And
Wow.
what an
Can't
honor! I
wait.
mean, yeah,
Where
what an
can I
honor! I
see
mean,
that?
it'll
On
be on
YouTube.
YouTube, Facebook, and then we'll share it to our page. But I want to promote them. Go to YouTube. Go to I Am Second. Subscribe to their page. Subscribe to their Facebook. It's incredible. It's an honor to be on it. You get to be invited, and I was just blown away, to be a part of that. And so, Into the Rock is all about attraction, not promotion. All of our stuff
Mm,
is just like
mm.
I met y'all. People reach out. We
Oh,
don't
yeah.
promote or anything like
And
that.
can I mention Deborah, who joined our show just now? She just mentioned that she is sober 32 years. So let's give her a
Goodness
hand, because
gracious, that
yeah,
is awesome. That's a long time with no alcohol.
yeah. Thanks for
Congratulations, Deborah.
joining
We're
us.
super
Way to
proud
go,
of you,
Deborah.
darling. And thank you for joining us.
And
That's
she
great.
says
Yeah.
thank you for the show.
In 27 years, Deborah, I'll have 32 years.
Danny, just on a side note, you should really check out I Am Second, especially guess who's on there, because you and I are book fans. Anne Rice, of all people.
Yeah.
You should hear her testimony. It'll blow your
Wow.
mind.
I got to check it
They
out.
did
That's exciting.
such a great job. I mean, it's really I was just really blown away. And then we're going to be posting, dropping a 45-minute documentary on my life on the 7th of July. So
Wow.
and then
Wow.
we're working on speaking engagements. So I wanted to wait till after 5 years to really hit the road speaking. I wanted to. That was just something my mentor or sponsor, whatever you want, we put a game plan together. Let's get 5 years under our belt. And I sure am glad I did, because I get to use these 5 years as a part of my story because the first 5 years are tough. You know what I mean? We get going, we're on a pink cloud, woo, woo, woo. And then all of a sudden the gas of the world hits us. We go through breakups, we go through financial stuff, and we start doing life.
And
it's,
life
it's
gets
so
life.
weird, because the first 5 years is when I've always been an extrovert, and I am an extrovert. But when it comes to doing this, I'm not. And it's like, I've noticed throughout my sobriety, I'll be 16 soon, I've changed. And I'm more of a person that sits back. And I remember telling my sponsor, when I would just go on the trail of speaking everywhere, I said, I'm going to become one of the speakers that goes to all the meetings.
Circuit speaker.
Circuit speaker, yeah. I'm going to be a circuit speaker. And I did it for a long time. And now it's like, I'm really almost like a different person. You change so much throughout your recovery. I mean, I'm sure Deborah can attest to that. I mean, that's just, it's always a journey. All those years you acquire so many different journeys and things to share about staying sober through, the mess, because life is never.
Well, that's what's so good about recovery, is because, hey, when we're using and drinking, they know we're using and drinking. When we get clean and sober and have that spiritual awakening, people go, wow, man, this is something unbelievable. And you know what's interesting? When we get clean and sober, we have that spiritual awakening, the people that are around us that don't drink or do drugs, we start realizing they're sicker than we are. You know what I mean? I mean,
isn't that the truth?
Because they're not working a program. And that's when I came up, with everything going on in the world and everything that's so confusing, I've really come to the conclusion, I've narrowed this down, is that the number one offender that is killing the human race, it's the plague, is resentment. That's what's killing the human race, is resentment. And thank God we have a solution for it. Thank God that we have tools for it. Thank God when I have a resentment, it's a result of fear, and that I have tools that the quicker that I see the role and I play in it and I accept it, and true acceptance has no resentments, I'm down the road. I'm down the road. And there's so many people that don't drink and do drugs, and they don't have the tools to process resentments. You know what I mean? And I've always said this, what is addiction? What is the definition of addiction that's not dictionary? Here it is. This is what I put down. Addiction is this. It's a person, it's a place, it's a thing, and here's the scary one, or a thought that has become my source. My source. Okay.
I haven't heard that one yet.
So when all of that's happening, and so then on our show is that we're all addicts. If you're breathing, we're all addicts, and someone will debate me and they say, well, no, I'm not an addict. And I'm going to say, well, don't use your cell phone for 24 hours. They can't. And they go, well, and not one person says I can do that. And I said, well, let me tell you about mental obsession. Okay. When you put your cell phone down and you make a commitment not to do it for 24 hours, do you think about it nonstop? And they go, yeah. And I said, that's the mental obsession. That's because this has become your drug of choice. And they go, that's the same thing for a drug addict and alcoholic. The only problem is thank God we have serious consequences. I never was in prison for a guy that was an overeater. You know what I mean? What are you in for? I'm an overeater. But thank God our consequences are so extreme, because then we get to find God quicker, no matter what.
Deborah,
there's a lot of people who need to be listening to this podcast. Yeah, I'm going to invite her on.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hi, Deborah.
Hello. This is so inspiring.
We're glad that we can provide that service
Deborah.
for you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. It's not God willing, I make it till September 3rd, it'll be 33 years, but I've got 32 years, and it really is not a psychological trick that it's one day at a time.
Amen.
As that old slogan goes.
Yeah. And my life, it seems like even a different person, just when I think about it. But Michael, you sound great, and this is an amazing story. And this paying it forward and what happened you acknowledge the miracles that are happening in your life, and you're incorporating them in and doing what you're taking like sober actions. It's just pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I want to thank people like you that do have 30 years clean, because that's you're so powerful, because when y'all share and being 5 years, I'm just soaking it in like a sponge. And it's interesting. It's redundant. It's the same thing, but it's so cool. Different people put it in different ways, but it's real simple, is that, trust God, clean house, and help others.
Yeah,
That
and
formula.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you just made me think of something. When you were talking about the thought, it's just not, it's about the thought.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever realize next time you read the big book that the italics are really where it's at? And the italics cost a lot for them to print the italics in those days. It was a different printing press. But Bill W. put the italics like on very simple statements like, and then the thought occurred to me to have a drink. It's very simple. And if you look at all the italics, you will see how simple they are and where they're placed.
Right.
That's cool.
Thank you for the tip, Deborah.
Yeah, that's
You're
awesome,
a superstar.
It's not when we lose a million things. It's not when anything. It's just you're sitting somewhere one day after your disease is pushing up, you're doing push-ups outside the door, as they say, and all of a sudden, and then the thought occurred to me to have a drink. Why don't I have a little, in my milk, a little whiskey? You like that story? It's so fun.
It is.
What milk?
Exactly.
Right?
I can understand the question.
Yeah, what milk? There ain't gonna be any milk in it. I'm just going straight from the handle. I got something funny to tell you.
No, but I mean,
I've been on the boat. I've been on the boat all day today with some friends, and I saw the most amazing thing I've probably ever seen in my life. I saw two men split a beer. They go, "Would you like a beer?" He goes, "No, let's just split one." And I'm like, "What? What?" I said, "I would be drunk. I would be drunk and high before I get on the boat. I'd be drunk and high when I got off the boat, and I wouldn't go home until Friday." You know what I mean? Because I would get on the boat, that would just start, and then I would, y'all would find me on Friday. And these guys, they split a beer there, and I wasn't one of them, but I got to have fun. I get to have fun, and it's just, I'm so grateful when there's gratitude support group meetings, and the topic is gratitude.
Yeah.
I'm always grateful for this, is that the mental obsession has been removed. Okay. I don't think about my cell phone. I do. That's an addiction of mine. I have to force my sponsor says, you put it up, and because we get thousands of messages, thousands through our show of every mom and dad, every codependent, Al-Anon in denial, want me to help their people, and so anyways, to put it down and just be able to look up and forward, and so it's so cool that mental obsession has been removed from drugs and alcohol. Do I think about it? Yeah, but it's a different thought. It's different.
Right.
It's not that obsession like, okay, after this show, okay, in 2 hours I can drink again, and then I'm already drinking before. It's just that it's just nonstop. I mean, it's how many meetings have you canceled and rescheduled because you want to drink? And so I'm just so grateful for that, and everything else falls into place.
I love that.
Well, absolutely, I do too, and I think we're going to end on that note. Mike, before we leave, I have to ask you, your show M2, where can people find it? Is it a TV show, a radio show? Tell us a little bit quickly about that.
So everything that we do is all digital video, and then we do and audio. Oh, speaking of that, the story is our show is in every single prison and jail on the tablets. It's the only recovery show on there. Yeah, that's
That's
mackerel.
cool.
I was sharing my story at a treatment center, and this kid just really, really loved my story. He's still sober, and his dad is the CEO of Securus, which is a government telecommunications company. And this government that does all the communications in prisons and jails around the country. And he says, put that show on the tablets. And
wow, that
so
is cool.
we get messages from prison of people how it's helping. And so, but anyways, it's just M2 The Rock, the letter M, number 2, The Rock. .com, and then we're on every platform: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're on all of those, and it's been a blessing.
It's impressive. I've watched a lot of your videos. They're just, I can imagine they help so many people, and we're really thankful to have you on the show. And hopefully maybe one day you'll come back and tell us what's going on next year. And I'm sure you've got a lot to share. So we would love
I'd
to
love
have
to,
you
and I'd
come
love
back.
to. I want to invite you to be on my show.
We'd love to.
Would love to do that, and we're actually almost finished with a brand new studio where we're going to take it to the next level and have celebrities on that are not addicts and alcoholics. It's just here because hey, having drug addicts and alcoholics follow me, that's easy. But I want to reach out to other people that don't have tools for resentment and just simply share their story, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. And that's what I've always wanted.
It's very cool,
bro. Like the late Casey Kasem used to say, if you aim for the stars, you'll be maybe lucky to reach the treetops or even reach the moon.
Amen.
And with that, folks, we would like to thank Michael Molthan for appearing on Doing It Sober Life. Mike, you've been so much of fun.
Thank you.
Deborah, a special thank you to you for coming on the show, for sharing your part as well. You see, folks, this is what we've been begging and pleading for more than months now, to come onto the show. This is your show. We want you on here to present Q&As to our guest, and we're going to have a gay old time. We thank you so much, and if you've missed out on the show, they will be on demand on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your podcasts under the Doing It Sober Life banner. But until we meet again next Tuesday this time, God bless you, one and all. Thanks again, Mike. Look after yourself, mate.
Thank you. God bless.